Alright YouTube, it's time for Occult Literature video number 101, The Occult Significance of Blood. Now this is one I tried to offer several years ago, and at the time I didn't know jack shit about Create Space's like copyright requirements, so it got suppressed. So I'm just reissuing it here, no problem this time, because now I can figure out how to actually do this. And anyway, the cover and the interior format's superior anyway, so the old version, who cares actually at this point. Link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon. Second link to my books blog if you're interested in theosophical texts. Dower's Occultism for Beginners is one I actually recommend to people. Most theosophical works and works of anthroposophy I'm not really interested in. I have a general interest in the movement. But I also realize that sort of its formulation under Blavatsky is really a bunch of New Age nonsense. It's fake seances, fake sort of healing crystals, sort of the basis for the hippie-trippy 60s stuff, as well as the modern orgone sort of cloud-busting crap that people talk about. It's not real occultism, it's charlatan. It has nothing to do with reality. That being said, Steiner is more wise than most of his contemporaries were. His work here, along with Ahrimanic Deception, are the two works that I happen to favor. I've read several of his other works. I think he had one that was actually a dietary work. I may edit that at some point. That one was of interest too. Most of his other works, I'm like, whatever. The subject material's just not my bag, I suppose. This work is interesting because it shows sort of the inverted eugenic take on human civilization. Now, at the time when this was made, people were talking about the race question. They're talking about, well, what is a race? What's the importance? How do you explain? People were trying to literally explain, why are there people in this world that are more primitive than others? Which there are. Now, let's not mince words here. Why are there certain people that technologically remained so backwards while other people were building, massive pyramids and stuff like that? Other people were literally hunting with a stick. Why? Now, what's the actual cause of this? And one of the proposals essentially here, although it's not stated in black and white, but that's the intonation of what he's saying, is that people who remained homogeneous in their blood, literally, racially, genetically speaking, although he's talking about blood in a more literal sense at the time, early 1900s, people who remained homogeneous had a tribal memory. Now, it didn't allow them to develop advanced technology or thought, like philosophy, but it did give them a tribal racial memory such that an individual in a primitive tribe was capable of recalling events that others had experienced as though they themselves had experienced it. Indeed, if you study the linguistic systems of some of these more primitive people, that is essentially the case. There's no differentiation on some tokens between self and others within one's lineage. It's actually very, very interesting. Steiner is partially correct here. Whereas those who had intermixed, because they lost that linguistic and cultural homogeneity, they actually were able to differentiate themselves from one's lineage, much more effectively develop advanced technology. And while Steiner sees this as partially a loss, literally that people having mixed and delved into civilization essentially had lost the tribal memory. They had gained a more advanced intellectual capability on other tokens, and that man was still ascending, that through essentially what you could call a quasi-eugenic approach. Steiner does not appear to be truly a racialist here. Through a more cultural eugenic approach, mankind could achieve essentially godhood. It's actually the rudiments of what the Nazis were trying to do. Of course, they relapsed into more of the racialist side as opposed to the cultural side of, just literally, we shall be one, we shall be united and strong, and we're going to do all of these things, nothing's going to stop us. They delve more into the more strict eugenic side that actually didn't even originate in Europe. It originates in the United States, believe it or not. It's actually very funny if you study the history of eugenics at all. But Rudolf Steiner was a wise individual. He approaches this from a very deep philosophical standpoint. You don't have to agree with what he's saying. I'm sure that the modern day progressives would find him to be a total Klansman, Bible-thumping racist. Probably the skinheads would find him too weak and equate him, I don't know, with the leader of the brown shirts or something like that. Oh, he's not racial enough. But nonetheless, it's an interesting philosophical take on the interplay, literally the importance of blood. He delves into Faust here a little bit with blood as a very special fluid, the idea of the blood pact and things like that. Literally blood in a biological sense being the sustainer of life, which is true, obviously, carrying your oxygen throughout the body, carrying the nutrients and so forth. But also the meaning of blood as in lineage, the overarching blood of a nation, the blood of a culture, the blood of a race, is also spoken of at length here. And again, he wraps it up all, generally speaking, with the story of Faust, actually, which is interesting, Faust being sort of this demonic pact. The idea of Faust is sort of selling your soul. You're getting something in return, but you're also losing something. And that is essentially what Steiner believes man has done. He's lost advanced European, at the time, culture, had lost the tribal memory and some of the good things that come along with that, but had gained something in return, sort of losing paradise, ignorance being bliss in the process, but had gained the ability to ascend further over time, assuming the right steps have been taken. So it's a very interesting work. It's one that I've wanted to release for a while, but I had to put it on the back burner. I had so many other texts, honestly, to plow through. I didn't have time to get back to that actual work. So again, link in the description to my edition of this work on Amazon, second link to my books blog. That's about all. Peace out.